Good, call to order, 4:06. So the first order of business is the approval of the May 26th regular meeting minutes. Take them one at a time, if anybody's got any additions or corrections.
So
I have a motion to approve the minutes. Okay. Is there any addition and corrections to the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye to the May 26th meeting.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Then we have a special meeting in June, on June 17th, and our minutes for that. So can I have a motion for the special meeting in June 17th?
So moved. Second.
Any additions or corrections to the minutes?
There was a change in it. I just added from what was sent out to what's in it. I added that the executive session was in accordance with section 105D for discussing proposed pending or current litigation. It just specified what the purpose of the executive session was.
So there is a change to the minutes, so.
But it
we
is
have a
presented
motion
right now.
to approve the minutes with the change that Caitlin read.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, nobody opposed. Next, we're gonna go to number 3. And Joe is gonna go over these letters one at a time.
Sure.
If you have any questions, just chime in.
Well, thank you for coming today. We don't have any resolutions planned. Many of you probably know by now, but I am getting ready to go on family leave again in maybe a month, a little more than a month. So this is potentially my last land-based meeting for a while. So in prepping for that, we wanted to go through how we're approaching the work while I'm gone, and thereafter with Tracy taking the lead on a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to work through the project updates of what's happening there. We have a very short presentation about how we want to put together the next suite of projects. And we're hoping to do an executive session about some potential property acquisitions at the end of the meeting. So the first item, the FLRLBC projects in the village of Waterloo. So these were the topic of the special meeting last week, and they are moving forward with removing the unexpected debris and unsuitable soils at both locations. We had a contract that we're working on getting signed with FLRLBC to help pay for that change order, and we coordinated with HDR on some of the specifics of that contract and getting it covered under the grant and all those things. So we're in good shape there. Their project is moving forward and seems to be on schedule despite the early delays here, and hoping that those supportive housing projects, 5 units across 2 sites in the village, will be done early next year.
That's it.
That's it for that.
Oh, Esther, did you have time? I know you're busy. You didn't, that's okay. Did you have time to consult with any, because we're on that topic, we might as well talk.
Get there. I did. I'm waiting for the lawyer that Joe recommended to get back to us because we're on a conflict check. I have another quote for a different attorney, and so I think in July I'll be able to bring both. So just, or I can,
Well, we haven't decided if we're going to file a lawsuit.
no, we would just be like a quote from them about how much it would take to evaluate it, because it's such a high rate outside counsel for this evaluation process.
All right.
It was a quick turnaround, but I did make the calls.
All righty, we're gonna move on to number 2.
Village of Waterloo property acquisition updates. The Board of Supervisors passed a resolution authorizing the purchase of 19 Multi Street, multifamily property in Waterloo. And I know Esther is working on the deed and has submitted something to the county attorney, so as soon as that is prepped and ready to go, we should be able to move forward. And we have the money and the resolution set up here from our end, so once that's ready, we'll be pursuing it. And we've also scheduled a meeting with the owner of the dry cleaner in the village for later this week. So we were able to get a hold of them and get something on the books. So hopefully we'll have some updates from that issue coming down the pike.
We ended up doing the conveyance of Wilshire Street while you were on the, some checks to figure out.
Bill flow.
Great.
So, we'll have
That's what's
to update the bill payment system, but under the bylaws and the check signer policy, I'm not the only one that can. Jill can, Frank can,
Mike.
and Mike can.
I know that, but I was gonna, we have to definitely just check out.
Right, so we have to update the platform to match that. But yeah, it's, yeah. Yeah, that was the Waterloo update. Seneca Housing, the projects in Old and Willard, those are going well. There are packets, not quite enough for everybody, but extra packets from the most recent construction meeting that has some pictures and things in there, and some budget tables and stuff like that. The walls are going up at the site in Willard, and I believe the walls are going up in Building B at the site in Ovid. And hopefully soon they'll start digging at the front site. They haven't been able to get there yet because of site challenges and construction with the size of it. But that one is proceeding nicely. We have our next meeting tomorrow for the draw meeting, and hoping to have that all buttoned up and done early next year as well. So the final thing here is this presentation that Tracy and I put together. It's kind of the first foray into thinking about how we're pursuing putting these projects together in a way that addresses some of the county's concerns with emergency housing and temporary assistance and rising costs and all of those challenges. We wanted to bring it to the board first to basically gauge your opinion and your enthusiasm for pursuing the projects this way. That sets the stage for us to start engaging a little bit more seriously with HCR and all of that. So it's a very short presentation, and then we'll move to the next couple of items. But for the sake of being able to advance the slides, I have to go over here. I don't know. I don't think we'll be able to hook it up in a timely manner. All right. So we've done a bunch of plans and studies over the last few years, and now we're going to try and use them. Elements of all of these are incorporated throughout the rest of the presentation. Mostly the initial housing needs assessment that we did a few years back, and the emergency housing in rural upstate New York, which was a land bank association project that some of you may remember. We contributed money towards to help fund it a couple years back. So this is boiling down from those efforts. Also, the housing strategy and our operations plan are touched on a little bit. So as far as the housing strategy goes, in the housing strategy, they broke up our housing challenges into two buckets, two tracks. We have affordability challenges, and those challenges we traditionally address by going out and getting state funding, federal funding to help people that can't otherwise pay for all of their housing that they need to pay for it. And we're pretty good at doing that. And this presentation is essentially a way to get better at doing that. It doesn't address the other half of it, of the market challenges and the competitiveness challenges that the proposed Seneca Housing Trust Fund would deal with. This is firmly in the existing category, but it doesn't mean that we can't figure out how to do it a little bit better. Advance. So this is from the Rural Housing Report. This is a graph of Seneca County's emergency housing spending. I skipped one.
Yeah.
Oh. This is from the housing needs assessment. This shows the median price and the number of sales of multifamily apartments, of units over time. So we're seeing the price decrease and the number of sales increase. And that's giving a signal that there is speculation happening in that segment of the market. So folks are purchasing these properties, renting them, getting as much money as they can out of them. And instead of upgrading them or doing much work, they're selling them or letting them go to taxes or something else to the next step. So this has been a concern across both the strategies. And this is the type of housing stock that this presentation and our next slate of projects is currently geared towards. So 19 Locust Street is the middle picture. 4 Seneca Lane is the bottom picture. The top picture is just one that's a known one that's out there. There's a lot of these all throughout the county, just to give you an example of what else could potentially be out there that could be addressed in this way. So the 19 Locust Street is the greenhouse that we should be closing on in the coming days, weeks. And 4 Seneca Lane is the property that we got donated from the Presbyterian Church in Seneca Falls. The price that they paid for that 2-unit multifamily was $90,000 in 2025, and it's just about where the $87,600 median price was expected on this graph. So I think I think they did a good job when they were putting the data together for that. With that, we're seeing emergency housing spending increase over time. Here's a graph of the county's spending since 2019. Big increases over COVID, but they're continuing to rise. And we had a conversation with the temporary assistance manager at DHS earlier this week, and they're continuing to rise. So part of the reason they're continuing to rise is that rents are also increasing throughout the county. Getting people to move on from temporary assistance, the longer they stay, the more expensive it is in the motel. Moving them on to more permanent housing has been a challenge, and a challenge for the county, but also a challenge within the market because of the quality and the amount of opportunities we have for housing. We just saw some examples of the type of places that we're trying to move people into. And we're hoping to pull all this together in a way that can address this over time and also leverages the money the county is already spending, putting out the door to get reinvested back into housing for this population. So basically running the numbers and taking the potential units, the unit counts at 4 Seneca Lane and 19 Locust Street. So per individual or family served, if you're taking into account the amount of money it costs to put them in emergency housing versus what the county is paying for temporary assistance through permanent housing, rental housing, it's much cheaper for the county on the county's end if we can get them into apartments. You spend less money per case. So right now, all of this funding is going out the door and into the motels, and it's very expensive. We can decrease the amount of money going out the door if it's going towards apartments. And if it's going towards apartments, we know how to do that. We can build apartments. We're doing it right now. So the idea is to develop these projects in a way that they're supported by the payments already coming out of the county and reducing the amount of payments for those households coming out of the county. We made these 2 flow charts to explain how this works. So this would be for the Forest Seneca Lane property. This was the donation by the church, and you'll notice that this one is circular because we want to keep this one going. So if we start in the top right-hand corner, we've acquired the property. We need to find a subsidy source to rehab the property. We had some conversations with HCR about using CDBG, but the best option will probably and likely be the next round of LBI funding. So we'll get the property rehab. Then instead of selling it immediately or transferring it to somebody else, we hold it and we lease it. And you'll see leasing it to a third-party nonprofit housing service provider. So Margaret Morse in the mental health department has different transitional housing programs, and they need more of it. It's a topic of conversation at the Board of Supervisors semi-often. What we're wanting to do here is, through Margaret's programming, to basically lease the units to a third-party nonprofit housing service provider and generate some revenue that's stemming from the county initially. The revenue will be coming into the land bank, and we could use it for all sorts of things. We could pay for our operating expenses. We could bank it and save it for a project. There's different things we could do with it. Don't need to necessarily figure that out right now. But to keep it moving, we would only have that situation be in place for 3 to 5 years, depending on the funding source, where then we would sell that property to get it placed back onto the market for housing opportunities going forward, more permanent housing opportunities. The sale of that buys the next one and repeat. So money's coming out the door from the county, being invested into the land bank via the nonprofit housing provider. We're leasing it for a period of time, and then we sell it. It's back in service for affordable housing, and then we start over. And over the next couple of years, we could do this. This could be scaled. We could do more than one at a time, and this would provide operating revenue and recycle the funding to keep the transitional housing opportunities in place while getting them back to the market at the end of the day to be available for rental housing.
What kind of shape is the house in now?
It's probably the nicest one we've ever had. And that being said, it needs everything. But the roof is good. So it hasn't had a ton of water damage, but it needs lead abatement and asbestos abatement and kitchen appliances and drywall and all the stuff that a full rehab would require. But it's not to the point where we need to tear it down, which is nice.
So are you saying
Why
that?
don't you,
Go ahead.
why don't you get it sold? Let somebody fix it up and put it back on the tax roll.
Yeah, we
A
could
lot
do.
of people out there doing that, they find an old house and they fix it back up and it's just like a brand new one. And you get a heck of a lot more money out of it.
So this specific house was donated by the church, and they want it to be transitional housing. And the intention is to honor that and to figure out how we can make it work. We came up with this because we can't go to the town of Seneca Falls and get transitional housing forever through their zoning process. That's going to be a challenge. But if we went and said we only need to do it for 3 years or 4 years, and that was implied and put in the special permit, we can probably get that. And then selling it to somebody like you're talking about at the end of the day would generate more money and then start over.
The only thing with leasing it, it'll end up worse than it started out at.
Not a ton worse.
Basically, Margaret's money is no longer going to hotels and such. Is that basically what we're trying to cycle it through to keep it?
Margaret's money right now, she has it, and she doesn't have enough places to spend it. That's her problem. It's a little bit different than the hotels.
Okay.
The next slide for 19 Locust Street is the hotel.
Okay.
But yeah, so Margaret has a bunch of clients that need these transitional housing units for mental health. She doesn't have enough places to put them consistently, but she has the money to get them into these placements. This begins to address that by 2, and then eventually puts it back on the market for what Ernie is concerned about as a regular affordable rental. I'm also pretty sure that we might have to pay taxes on this while it's being used in this way, because it's not necessarily in our mission.
It's that as soon as they land bank rents on the land bank statutes.
Right. So it's going to be on the tax rolls while this is happening.
We're generating income, right? That's what the tax.
But we'll be getting that revenue to pay those taxes.
But it is livable now.
No.
And depending on the funding source in step 2, are there limitations on how it can be used? Like we use certain rate to rehab it, or are there parameters on how it can be used? Like some housing had their funding source made them hit a certain target. Those kind of things.
So for land bank initiative, if we get through a regular board consensus of we should pursue this today, we think land bank initiative money, we could do this, no problem. We approached CDBG and HCR from that angle, and they didn't say impossible, but it's a lift. And the amount of administration required to do that is pretty onerous, and it becomes probably not a good idea to pursue it like that long term. So it's really LBI is the best game in town.
I was kind of asking to answer Ernie's question too, that, you know, this hinges on the land bank able to get money to rehab these places. I just didn't know if that would then limit what we could do with them in terms of turnaround and selling it, rather we can't necessarily rehab them to then get them back out. Or we can, I don't know.
We can.
With LBI, we can. It's in a short amount of time. There's no rent.
Right. The LBI,
Depends on the funding source, yeah.
the CDBG is longer. And one of the other downfalls of the CDBG is it's public facilities and not regular housing money, because regular housing money wouldn't pay for this. So for the other pot, the temporary assistance money, this would basically tack on to the way we're already pursuing Project Seneca Housing. The thing that would need to change in this model is essentially how Seneca Housing works with DHS to find placements for their tenants. So the same process, we get a property, we work with Seneca Housing on pre-development, we go find money for rental rehab. Probably going to be the same funding source that we used for the Ovid project. And then at the end of the day, when they do their marketing and lease-up plan, they prioritize under that plan people exiting homelessness, which means people exiting motels. When they shift from the motel to permanent housing, they don't come off temporary assistance, but they get less. And that's the cost savings with the county. So If we do this and we continue to do this at a decent pace, we'll basically be rehabbing these units, getting them back to being actually livable quality units. And then it provides DHS with a place to actually move people out of the motel more consistently and pay less money to house them here than they're paying at the hotel. So it's a cost savings in that direction. And we're working on quantifying what that could be, but we didn't make it in time for this presentation. So essentially, right now, per week, the county is paying $725 at a minimum for hotel rooms, motel space. And that extrapolates and gets to a pretty large number pretty quickly. For permanent apartment through temporary assistance through the same program, it's $387 per month, and then increases to $661 if there's a family. So that money would be going out the door and being paid directly to Seneca Housing instead of being paid to the motel at a much higher rate. So the cost savings is in those numbers.
That's money that the county's already paying.
The county is already spending the big money at the motels, and they're spending the permanent placement TA money when they can. They don't have enough of those either. But if there was more of them, we would be reducing the amount of money being spent at the motel rooms.
Are they paying that for hotels outside of Seneca County? Or
Yes, it's an average.
okay, so, but they are, because we've always heard that there's not enough here.
Mhm.
So they're pitching them out of county or wherever, and so that money, Seneca County's money is going to another hotel somewhere else outside Seneca County.
Not as much.
Right.
Like we have way more here than we're out of county. I don't have a sense of exactly how many, but I don't think I know in 2023 there was 55 individuals and 14 families moving through the system. And even if we send them out of county, they'd still be represented in that tally. We're not talking huge amounts of units to make it down here.
Yeah.
I see.
Yes, thank you for subsidizing Cuba County's bed tax.
Right.
I'll take it.
That's what's going on.
Well, I did look into it. They don't pay the bed tax.
They don't pay the bed tax?
They don't pay the bed
Oh,
tax.
gosh, then I don't have anymore.
So yeah, this is how we would pursue for Seneca land. Would be this one. So essentially, we will start how we always start in the pre-development, get the permitting done, get the cost estimates, get everything in place. When the next round of LBI funding goes out, we would apply for it, and I imagine they'll give it to us. We'll rehab the property, and then work with Margaret and her. We'll hold it for that amount of time, sell it, start over. And then this was essentially the plan for 19 Locust Street. Anyways, the only difference is at the end of the process with a marketing plan, there's a little bit more coordination with temporary assistance, but that would essentially allow for those 3 units at Locust Street to prioritize families exiting homelessness from the motels. That is it. That's the entire presentation. So, yeah, while I'm out, we have the remaining funding from our current round of LBI to start pre-development on both these sites in the acquired 19 Locust. And I hope that the next round of LBI will come out for an application, and we should be in a position to apply for it. And that would be the gist of the application. Is we're going to do those things unless there's a consensus not to do that.
Good question.
Yeah.
And this is kind of said before, but the difference between what Margaret's paying for a hotel room and what the costs are post success here are pretty substantial.
Yeah.
And that creates a bucket of money at the top.
Not as big as budget as you'd think, but yeah, a little bit. We're trying to capture that bucket through those lease payments. And on the other side, Seneca Housing would be capturing that bucket through those payments.
Okay, one thing to keep in mind is there's a local share and a federal share, so you can't reallocate the federal share.
Okay,
That
so
is
in that
specific.
gap, there's a federal, and is that the larger of the two shares? I guess you thought this already. It seems like a huge number.
It is a huge number.
And it's a big number, yeah.
So, I believe the local share is bigger. But it also depends on the client and the person passing through. So it is a real maze of how they determine what benefits each client or family or individual gets. You might get a little federal here, you might get a little local there, and there's calculations that they perform to figure out exactly who paid for it. It's different for each case. So these are broad strokes estimates of how it would work out. But yeah, there's the amount of money going to the motels. So that's supposed to be emergency housing. And what we're into now is it's a little bit more long-term than that. And there isn't a cap for what a community can spend on emergency housing, because if there was, it would be hit, and then they would be no longer able to provide it, and you can't let people live on the street, which is a good rule. I'm glad we have that rule. What's happening is the calculation for the permanent placement for social services to pay for somebody or to help subsidize somebody's apartment, that there is a cap for that. And that cap hasn't been raised in a very, very long time. And I think we've got this strange incentive going on where motels can charge whatever they want and continue to increase every year. And they know that, and they do. But the temporary assistance cap for just the apartment, if we're gonna help somebody get into an apartment, has been stagnant. And it's not enabling folks to get out of the motel faster. So I think if the state were to change how they calculated that cap for rental assistance and temporary assistance, even if that number increased, you would save money going out the door for the motels. But right now that cap is very low.
So that's $725 per week per person. That could be 20 people in emergency assistance.
That's $725 per room.
For a day,
Per week.
per week. But there might be multiple people. We could have 20 people on public assistance in emergency housing.
They can't put more than X number of people in the room.
I know, but they could rent 20 rooms.
They went the whole motel.
Yeah, they take the whole
Yeah,
motel.
that's what I mean. The 720 only represents one person. There could be 10 people today. Could be $7,250 it costs the county today for emergency assistance.
In a sense, yes.
So, okay. because I calculated it 800 of them. I calculated it by the day. But anyway, there's more than one person involved in that a day. I mean, one thing.
Yeah,
That's why the number is big.
correct.
Because I can remember talking to the Commissioner of Social Services years ago. We used to send one kid away to juvenile detention. And that was back in the 90s. It used to be 600 a day per kid. We used to have like 13 kids out every day. It's huge, the amount of money. That's why I used to say to Charlie, why don't we talk to those kids in a room and say, try to be nice and we'll give you $10,000 a year to be nice. It was cheaper to make them be nice than it was to send them away. But nobody ever picked up on that idea, so we used to send them away for $600 a day.
Hopefully, we're not playing in that arena for land bank work, but, yeah, I think there's definitely a way to be a little bit smarter and more efficient with how we design our programming here to help take some of the pressure off of the social services department and the money that's going out the door there.
Bruce, in 2023, it looks like the local share was a little under 50%, 5%. So it's almost half, but I don't know what that would be today. You're right, not significant.
Alrighty, so does anybody else have any additional questions for Joe on the slideshow or any of the 1, 2, 3, 4 we went over?
No, I mean, I'm just saying, I think it's commendable that you guys are attempting to pursue this stuff. I know you've been thinking about it for a long time and working with Margaret and DHS that this is a real problem that's going on behind the scenes that not everybody sees. And nobody's figured out a solution. But, with that report that the Land Bank Association had done, seems to be in the state and different funders are taking notice of that this is a unique way that land banks are starting to try to address some of this. It's not without its complications, which we all understand, but if there's a way to just attempt to pursue a pilot program or like, let's just see where the glitches are, so let's see what this can do. I mean, it does put a dent over time for residents that are here and they're living in hotels.
Yeah,
And some of them with families for long term. I mean, and that's just.
and we've been, the Flapper project that we're doing now addresses this problem too. So when they lease those out, they're the oldest population priority. They'll put it who they get. So they'll come off of the motel rules. And they are very unlikely to return. So there is a cost savings and a benefit there. But what we aren't capturing in that is we're still paying for the motels. If we're shifting the strategy here and pursuing this in a way where those buckets of money we're able to collect either at the land bank or inside the housing, we're basically enabling the county to have a little bit more skin in the game with the money they're already spending, instead of passing it completely to the state.
Now, these housing, this would be more of a housing, an apartment versus just sitting in a hotel room too, right?
Exactly. So we're getting them out of the hotel room into a regular apartment.
Which helps the transition, because anybody who stayed in a hotel just for more than a few days, it grows on you where.
Yeah.
Also studies
How many
about
places
how
do
that.
we have in the works right now? 12 going in, a unit, a 7, and 1 of 5 right now.
Yep.
Works, yeah.
So it'll be less for these next two projects. 3 or 4 at Locust Street, and 2 at North Center.
How do the people, I'm not familiar with which hotel, but do they have a kitchenette in the hotel, or do they, so they're eating out every day, which is probably on the county's dime as well, versus being able to cook their own meals in the apartment?
I do not have a great sense of the day-to-day in one of these places.
Nutritional outcomes in that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think it's a win-win no matter what, just for all sakes.
One last question. Because we're going away at one time. So, I think it's probably been asked before, we have a lot of vacant, sort of downwardly mobile housing.
Yeah.
A lot of houses. What's the primary barrier to getting those places renovated to a point where they can be occupied by some of these folks that are in hotels, for instance? Because, I mean, someone has to say, okay, here's this condition now, and this is the condition that needs to become available. Who sets what that delta, that change is? And can that be addressed in some way?
So I think I would start to answer that question with the graph. Number of sales increasing and sales price decreasing.
Okay, so that's the flipping, these are units being acquired at below market rates or below.
That is the market rate. The market rate is decreasing.
Yes, below what it used to be, and they're being rehabbed, but
No, they're not being rehabbed. There's not an incentive to be rehabbed because they're speculative. So,
because they're not being rehabbed because of the cost of the rehab.
right, versus the rents that they can get.
And what is the market rate for that rehab? What is that? Is there a way to get our arms around what that cost is?
Yes,
Okay.
that is the other half of the housing strategy.
Yes, yes.
So to get these types of places, if we had the resources to
$125,000 a year.
to turn the market around and produce, to fix these, they gotta be fixed up either way.
Yes.
And right now, the only money we can get to fix them up, there has to be some sort of affordability restriction. If we go out,
There has to be some affordability
restriction,
restriction.
they have to be income eligible to some degree. To invest the amount that these properties need by and large to make them market rate, the market will not do that. So the push for the housing strategy was to incentivize the market to do that. And there's not an outside funding source that gives you money to do that. So this is the very second slide of we're working with what we got and what's available to us.
And this is all probably covered, but there's a very large trades component to the population in the southern part of the county. Very large, and that's primarily the Amish and the
Yeah,
And is there a reason that, has that resource been, has it been attempts to tap that resource in any meaningful way?
a lot of the issue is insurance. So they'll have younger kids working, and some things like that. So getting the amount of insurance that you need to do a state grant program with a MedLife crew is difficult. And beyond that, I'm not sure if there's other constraints, but I know insurance historically is a big one.
Are these houses, when they're bought up for the market right now, or is it just the same people buying them up and renting them out as substandard, or are they just not being bought? Are they being bought in the whole rent and own situation?
So just for multi-units, I don't have a sense if it's the same cast of characters buying them every single time. I know a lot of times it's the same people selling them. There's different generations of actors moving through.
They bought them, they've taken everything they can out of them.
Now they sell
Point, but they just want to get rid of them.
Exactly. Because they've got too many code violations and too many complaints that they're out. And then the next person comes and throws a can of paint on the sink and starts over. So what we're trying to do is break that,
Yeah.
get them brought back to where they should be with the money we have available to us, which means we have to make them available to be affordable by definition.
So 19 Locust in particular, that one was one that was not necessarily attractive to the market. Right. It did go to auction.
And then
No one bought it. And so there's
Well,
a clear indication.
It was bought.
Oh, it was bought and then the
It
person.
was bought and the person backed out and the person, and then it's offered down the line, whoever bid, the second bid and third bid and so on and so forth. The next bidder, he wasn't willing to buy it at that, there was a thing about it like that.
Yeah.
He wasn't willing to buy it for a higher price. So nobody wanted to add the price of like $72,000, I believe, is what the first bid was when the person backed out. So that's when Joe and I talked about it, we got involved and started the process. Which worked out, in our favor. Well, what was best at the time?
Yeah.
Like,
and we're gonna pay for it, and then if we do this, the county will save money at the end of the day.
right, it worked out well. I mean, I think in the end, it all worked out for everybody.
What was the second?
I think in the 40s.
I
think it was in the 40s.
More reasonable.
And he was, and I know the contractor that bid, that was the second bidder, and he's a flipper. And he does very good work. I'm not saying he doesn't, he does excellent work. He's done several houses around here. And, he just wasn't willing to make one.
They make his method for appraisal 66. Yeah.
Yeah, and he worked for himself. He was an independent contractor and he just wasn't willing to pay any more money for it. Because in his eyes, he knew what he had to put into the place, and his time. And he believed the first bidder was bidding him up and running him up on it. So he was a little, so there was a little issue about it, but I think it worked out pretty well. And it worked out, the best circumstance worked out the way it did. It just happened.
That was interesting thing about that math though, if the next highest bid is in the 40s and somebody said 66 to your, like, you've seen what the market is willing to pay for these.
Right.
Right, so who's gonna
Right.
jump in on that?
And he knew, I think, in his eyes, him being a flipper himself, of when he started working on this place, he knew how long it was probably gonna take him. I mean, they do it their whole life, how long it was gonna take him, how much money it was gonna, and it was gonna sit there vacant for a long time, money coming in. While he was doing the work himself, so.
And I'm thinking about other places that have recently gone to auction that were multi-units.
There's not a lot of them, there's not a lot of multi-units out there.
Yeah, so we try to get them when we can. We did miss one on Border City Road. And somebody bought it. Took them a long time to actually pay for it. But they did get it. It came to planning board with an insane proposal. Looks like they got it passed through locally, and they ripped the front off the building, and that's all they've done so far. So, it
Those for housing or not for housing?
goes for housing. But that's still, I'm kind of keeping an eye on it just to see if they are able to deliver what they were hoping to deliver. It didn't seem like, it wasn't your classic, speculative actor. It was somebody who's done projects in other places. They had one here. So we'll see where it has them.
In our prime properties around here lately too, in the past few years, I've noticed, working with short-term rentals, the people that are buying these places isn't your neighbor or anybody that you can, they're LLCs, they're groups of these people buying these houses, and Frank knows, especially on Lower Lake Road, it's people that don't live in this county, that live elsewhere in another state, and they're buying these places and they're renting them out. They have money, they have groups of people who put money together and form LLCs and puts money in their investments. And that's what they're doing. I mean, it's all the time.
Right, because they can make way more money
They do.
through short-term rentals than they could just a regular rental. The short-term rental
Right.
market is strong.
Other business.
It's a huge business. It's huge.
There's motels in R1 districts. They should be in R1. There are motels in an R1. Look at the zoning. No motels are supposed to be in an R1, but they do it. That's, now, a rental that goes on for long-term, a year lease, 2 years, that's a regular home, but a 30-day short-term rental, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, that's a motel. You call it whatever you want, short-term, it's a motel. And they shouldn't be allowed in R1s. I didn't buy it in R1, I have hotels around.
Yeah.
You know, I will move to Las Vegas.
But we're not getting a lot of short-term rentals in the interior of the villages. We are getting them in the south end. And I think that's a little bit different than the north end. And I hate saying that because I know there's this whole big south end, north end that's totally different. I don't totally believe that. But in this case, in the short-term rental market on the south end, if you have a vacant abandoned old house in Interlaken, and you have a vacant abandoned old house in the village of Waterloo, you can probably rehab the house in Interlaken in short-term rental and make some money. You might not be able to do that. So the pressure is a little bit different.
And the north end and south end are different.
Point counterpoint.
Did we need to go in executive session for
Yes.
something?
Yeah, so somebody needs to make a motion to go in executive session under 105H for acquisitions.
So move.
A second? Second. So, all those in favor of going in executive session, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, nobody's opposed. We're
had a
out of
little-
executive
We're still going, even though.
We're out of executive session and, we don't really have any other official business to conduct, so do I have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Were we not doing, were we not doing a turn? Okay.
We'll, be here next month on the fourth Tuesday for.
July 28th.
That was a great show.
It was fun. It got a little cold.
We got corn this time.
All right, Joe, final